husband and I spent 10 days in northern Italy. We spent our last few days road tripping to the Dolomites, or as the locals call them, the Dolomites. We were able to rent a car straight from the Milan central station. Depending on what route you take, it's about 4 to 5 hours to get up to the Dolomites. We were staying in Cortina d'Ampezzo, the B&B hotel. The drive wasn't too bad. I would say the worst part was trying to figure out the tolls. If you're renting a car, the rental agency will explain to you how to use them, but sometimes it's not super self-explanatory and each one of them kind of does things a different way. After a long drive, we stopped and got some food in Cortina and then headed on to our B&B hotel. The next morning, we set off on my most anticipated hike of the trip, Lago di Serapis. This hike can take between 4 to 5 hours, so we set off pretty early at around 8 a.m., which was awesome for us because the trailhead was literally right next to our hotel. We went in mid-June, which is the very beginning of the season up there, so some of the trails can be dangerous and covered with snow. This hike is actually a loop, but we decided to do it out and back, taking the easier route to avoid any major snow. When you finally reach the lake, wow. I've never seen water like this before in my life. As you can see, the water looks super milky and turquoise, which is actually due to all the glacial minerals inside. I would leave about 30 minutes to an hour once you reach the end of this hike just to stop and admire its beauty. You'll definitely want to walk the perimeter of the lake to be able to take in all of the different viewpoints. Since we left early, we were some of the first people to reach the lake, but it definitely filled up quickly towards the end of our stay at the lake. There was actually a couple hiking with what appeared to be wolves. Maybe they're a dog. I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know, but I swear to God they were wolves. Towards the end of our time admiring this view, some of the clouds started to roll in, which is super common for the Dolomites, so make sure you check the radar before booking any of these hikes. After about an hour, we turned back and started making our descent. Overall, this hike was pretty moderate, but there definitely were a few hold your breath moments. After finishing our hike, we headed over to Pizzeria Edelweiss. This was definitely a well-earned meal after that hike. We were super impressed with the size of the menu. There were a million different pizza options on it. We were also impressed with the size of the pours that they give. After finishing up lunch, we headed to our next stop, Lago de Brais. I think it took us around 45 minutes to get there. Because Lago de Brais is super accessible, it was way more touristy than Lago di Serapis was. You can actually pull your car right into the parking lot and just walk up, which I have to admit I was super grateful for after the long hike we just did. There's a pretty moderate hike that takes you around the perimeter of the lake, which is what we did. And we were super surprised to hear a choir singing in the distance. At one point, we actually saw a mother duck and her ducklings. They were just grazing and bathing in the lake, and it was so adorable we had to stop and get some footage of them. These are the type of moments that make you stop and think, wow, this is what life's all about. After admiring the ducks for a while, we completed our loop and made our way back to where we parked our car. When we made it back to the visitor center area, we were surprised to be greeted by the carolers. Being in the Alps, I really felt like I was in the Sound of Music at this point. After 2 long hikes and seeing 2 beautiful lakes, we headed back to Cortina. The next day was a full day of refugio hopping. First on our list was the Cinque Torre hut. We actually stopped here and got a latte and enjoyed the view of the Cinque Torre. Next, we continued our hike past the Cinque Torre, and as you can see, it was a super cloudy day. And the higher we climbed, the cloudier it got. Our next stop was Refugio Avaro. It got pretty cold, so we started adding layers at this point. We actually passed Refugio Averau and went on to Refugio Nuvalu, but came back down and did enjoy lunch at Refugio Averau. Refugio Nuvalu was actually our entire reason for doing this hike, and unfortunately the view from the top was less than exciting. Hopefully we'll be able to return when it's less cloudy, but I think the moody, cloudy experience was super fun as well. After we descended back down past the Cinque Torre again, it was time to head back into town for dinner. And I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I never repeat restaurants, but Pizzeria Edelweiss was so good, we just had to go back a second time. Plus, it was the closest restaurant to our hotel, and honestly, I was getting a little nauseous on the twisty turny roads. On our fourth day, we had to drive back to Milan, but not without a pit stop in Lake Garda. Finding parking in Sermione was a nightmare, but we did have the best meal of our trip at Ristorante Ilaria. Tanner got this pumpkin risotto that was topped with bacon. I know it doesn't sound like the best thing on the planet, but he is still talking about it to this day. Sermione was beautiful, but it was very, very, very overcrowded with tourists. I'm super glad we stopped because it was incredibly beautiful, but if I were to return to Lake Garda, I would probably try out a different town that was a little bit less crowded. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're planning a trip to the Dolomites or to Lake Garda, please check out the blog post linked below for all of the details. It's packed with tips, hidden gems, and everything we did. And don't forget to like and subscribe for